Notice of meeting. This is to inform all state chairmen of our party, the All Progressive Congress, APC, that there will be a meeting between the National Working Committee and the state chairman, scheduled as follows. Date, Friday, 26 July 2024. Time, 3 p.m. Venue, National Working Committee Hall, APC National Secretariat, Abuja. Agenda, State of the Nation. Progress report on party structures in the states. Please note, attendance is compulsory for all state chairmen of the party. Signed, Senator Surajuddin Ajibola Basiru, PhD, National Secretary.
The ruling All Progressive Congress has summoned chairmen of its state chapters over the planned nationwide protest against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led government. Different groups in the country have resolved to embark on nationwide protests on August 1st, 2024 over the high cost of goods and services in the country. The APC National Secretary, Senator Ajibola, disclosed this after the 153rd meeting of the National Working Committee on Wednesday in Abuja. He said the meeting urged all those planning the protest to have confidence in Mr. President's relentless effort at repositioning the economy, while assuring Nigerians that the challenges will sooner or later come to pass. That was the message of the President. But some leaders from the North and South have continued to urge President Tinubu to address the nation on the steps being taken to quickly address the high cost of living and insecurity in the country. Hello everyone, welcome to Big Talk, a program here on Global Televisions where we'll take a look at some major political differences in the country, development as well, and what the nation looks like under the President Bola Tinubu. But tonight we'll be taking a look at the fact that President Tinubu has signed the Southeast and the Northwest Development Commission bills into law. The Southeast bill was sponsored by Benjamin Kalu, the Deputy Speaker, who represents the Federal Constituency of Abia State. The bill was passed by the Senate and House of Representatives and transmitted to the President in June for assent. The Commission will receive funds to execute projects in the geopolitical zone. That's the move to address the many challenges and issues in the Southeast. Tonight on the program, I'm being joined by the former Speaker of Imo State House of Assembly, a one-time governorship aspirant of that state, a man who understands what it means and the plight of the people of Southeast, and also will be giving us an understanding what it means for us to develop the region in the country. Because the tension we're having in the country today, as we speak, and the protests planned by some youth, is the fact that dividends of democracy, again, has not been felt by these ones. But what it means for the president is that he's trying to do his best. The APC governors have said that they will go out to their state to do their best. But what happened to regional development? The recent bill signed by the president for giving freedom to the Commission of Southeast and the Northwest might also be a way forward for some region. But how far can this go? What can we really compare to the past that was already signed? What has been the challenges of the region? Has this properly been addressed by the country and by the leadership of the nation? That will form part of a discussion tonight on the program. Honorable Ikechukwu Ibe, the former Speaker of Imo State House of Assembly, is live here on the program to join us on the discussion tonight. Good to have you join us, Honorable.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm quite very impressed for the fact that when one look at your profile, at 25, you were already a member of the House of Assembly. And when you look at the agitation by the young people seems left out of government. Young people feel they are not carried along. Young people feel they are not given a seat in the table. What did it look like in your time for you? At 25, you were able to secure a seat in the House of Assembly, and at 26, you were already a Speaker of the House, compared to what we have now in the country. Are you disappointed somehow?
Well, I'm both disappointed and also worried. Well, of course, essentially, the times are different now. The era in which I ran for elections into the House of Assembly are totally different from the times now, because then young men were a little more daring, young men were a little more audacious, young men were a little more ambitious. So young people, in my own instance, when I sought to go to the House of Assembly, people dismissed me anyway. But I told them that this is something I believed in because I had the qualifications to go to the House of Assembly. And then I took the bulls by the horn and ran for elections and won. But what was more prominent then was that elections were not expensive as they are today. It was easy for somebody to just have little or nothing and you seek elections and succeed. I remember back in the days, when I went to the House of Assembly, from primary processes to general elections, it didn't cost me more than 10,000 naira to get elected. But in the present days, for you to get to a House of Assembly, you probably need to spend about 200 million naira. That's unfortunate. So that's the challenges of the times.
All right. The challenges are quite enormous because when you look at the economic situation today, we do not even have young people who may have that capacity,
yes,
to engage the system.
Yes.
But let's get to the focus tonight on the program. The president have signed the Southeast Development Commission. And it also seems many people were agitating from the Southeast that they have not given them enough. How do you receive this news? Has this put to rest the agitations, the problem, and the concern of the Southeast people?
Well, it will be too early now to say it has put to rest the agitation until we see implementation of this commission and until we see the projects that this commission brings and until we see how such projects are managed and executed. So it is an exciting news that we now have a Southeast Development Commission that will cater specifically to the Southeast, just like we had the Northeast, and we also have other regional commissions established. So we are looking forward to proper technocrats being put in that commission, people who have what it takes to develop a place, not usual political appointments, people who will actually bring experience and skill sets to the table, and people who will apply the funds properly, the funds that will be channeled into this commission to actually do projects that people in this area desire, and people in this area have been agitating over the years. So we have to wait until they start their work and see what programs they have and see how they execute them and see how they impact the people's lives before we start assessing.
All right. In the view of the agitation by young people and many Nigerians,
yes,
does it look like many attention is just given to the presidency and probably the region, the state governors are not doing enough? What's your concern?
I totally agree with you on that. Now, this is a federation with federating units of 36 states and the FCT. Over the years, most of the states have relied almost 100% on the national federal allocations they get. Many state governments don't pay attention to the internal resources that they have in their states. Most state governors, at the end of the month, they run to Abuja to pick up what I call always the miserable check of allocation to their states. Back in the days, many of these regions were totally economically independent. For instance, in my place, my state, every local government area has one resource or the other that can be exploited and explored into commercial quantities. But these state governments don't do that anymore because everybody looks at Abuja, and that is why the focus is so much on the national government to succeed. Sometimes some states get zero allocations. And when they get zero allocations, you can imagine that little or nothing gets done in the states. It's only a few states that are focused and also looking at areas to generate internal revenue, but most of them are not actually looking at the natural resources that are hugely present in their states, which they can tap and they use to supplement whatever they get from the national level. So If the state governments do what they're supposed to do financially and also get frugal, I think less attention will be focused on the national government.
Because the reason I'm asking this, if you look at statistics, the number of figures allocated by fact to some states, you understand that it can in any way develop some of these states. It is that we are having to tackle so many corruptions in these states and this region, which is undermining some of these performance, and thereby pressure coming to the federal.
Yes, if you flash back to several years back, you will see that some states used to get as little as 100, 200 million naira a month several years ago. When I was a member of the House of Assembly, 91 to 93, my state government was not getting more than 100 million naira a month, but they were still working. You know, fast forward to now, when some states get as big as 20 billion a month. You know, some get more than that. But the problem has been there is so much corruption in governance. Most governments, you know, do all kinds of projects that have no bearing to economic development, that have no economic value, that can't pay back themselves. And they spend so much money on overhead costs, government overhead costs. By the time, you know, if consistently your current budget is way more than your capital budget, there's little or none that could be done to improve the lives of people. So if the state governments manage frugally what they get, which is much more than what governments used to get many years ago, then things will be a little better. You know, governance is not magic. But because in our society, 1 + 1 doesn't give 2. 1 + 1 sometimes gives 20. And so there's a lot of mysticism around government. There's a lot of misgiving and, like you said, a lot of corruption. So when government focuses its resources on provision of the greatest good for the greatest number of people, then whatever we get, you know, supplemented by whatever they get at the national level, supplemented with what they have at the state, we'll be able to run states effectively. Nigeria does, states don't need, our people don't need so much to survive. What they need is not handouts from government. What they need is government to play their role so that people can enjoy their fleeting lives. But the way it is now, governments are not playing their role properly.
What do you mean by government are not playing their role?
Well, yes, Nigeria as a nation is
Because the government will tell you they are doing this, they are doing that, and all of that.
Now, if you check what governments have been doing, successive governments come in and start all kinds of elephant political projects. A lot of governments don't do economic projects that mean things to people's lives. They do a lot of political projects. Huge resources are expended on projects that don't have economic value, projects that don't put food on the table for the people. And so most times also, when they start all these gigantic non-economic projects, some of them are not completed before the end of their tenure. And when new governments come in, they abandon those ones and start new ones and start expending new resources in this one. So all over the place, you have scattered all over the place, uncompleted projects everywhere. So when people complain that government is not doing enough, people really, feel the pinch in government. And what matters to people is the average, everyday dining table economics. If government policies do not bring food to the table for the people, do not ensure employment opportunities, do not ensure dividends of democracy for the people, like cost of things are rising. Ordinary things that people, cost of things like garri that used to be staple food for the proverbial poor person is now food for the rich. So when people don't see all these things from government, of course they have to complain because governance has become very expensive in our society. Political leaders have been now catering to themselves and to their cronies as opposed to what we were taught that government is supposed to provide the greatest good for the greatest number of people. When that doesn't happen, then people complain.
What are those challenges? We have institutions. Obasanjo had introduced EFCC. Mm-hmm. We have different government, institutions to tackle some of these things. Who do you say they have failed on their responsibility?
Yeah, they have failed because most of these institutions, the way they were set up supposedly to be independent. but they are not. You just mentioned an example, EFCC. EFCC has over the years been reduced to a political tool, hound political opponents of people in government. And sometimes they compromise when people are being prosecuted. All kinds of stories, come into play before, at the end of the day, people who are supposed to be convicted of economic crimes are left to go scot-free, either because they've settled the people who are in charge, or they've settled the people in the judiciary, or they have long legs in the government. So at the end of the day, EFCC and all these agencies government set up have not been given the political backbone, the real independence they need to function effectively and make meaning in people's lives.
All right. We just hope that some of these issues will be addressed subsequently, because it seems the many appointees that the president have appointed this time around are ready to confront the issues. Are you satisfied with the level of confrontation by these new appointees?
I believe some of them are doing well. I also believe some of them are not doing well. But the true test of whether appointees are doing well or not depends on how the people feel, what the people gain, how the nation is progressing, the economic benefits, and so on. But for now, the generality of the people are feeling the pinch. People are starving. People are dying. So if these things are happening, and people are complaining, that means the dividends of democracy and who are in charge? The people that are running the government. The ability for the president, to put square pegs in square holes is what will make a nation effective. But I think the verdict by many people is that people are suffering. And if people are suffering, that means the effect of government and governance has not reached them positively. Because
some experts will argue that, the hardship is in every part of this world. We've seen that even in America, they are crying over overcrowding houses, challenges in the United Kingdom, and all of these economic indices that is actually hitting up many countries. Is it that we should actually flow in line with the global challenges that we are having generally, or that Nigeria's situation might be different?
Every nation's economy is unique. Every nation's situation is unique. Now, you're giving an example with where the so-called developed nations. In those areas, the system works. Agencies of government are independent. Agencies focus on the assignment they're given. The level of corruption in these agencies, in these westernized worlds, are very minimal. But here in our society, corruption has become endemic. Corruption has become, statecraft. And people who are engaged in all kinds of corrupt activities, economic sabotage of the government and of the people, are left to go scot-free. But in those nations you mentioned, these things don't happen. So the kind of challenges we face are everyday challenges, institutional challenges that these people don't face over there. So the problems they have, and when they have problems, government addresses them and solves them. Government listens to the people. But here, it is difficult for government to listen to people. People in government believe they are masters of the people. But in actual sense, people in government are servants of the people. They are supposed to, serve the people, make sure people enjoy their fleeting lives. But it's not the case. That is why people are complaining, because those who we elected to serve us are not serving us, they are serving themselves. They have connived the entire Commonwealth to themselves and left the people with a peanut. That's why the people are complaining.
All right. We just hope the government is undefeated. The president has promised that he has heard the cries of the Nigerians. He understands the pains, but probably the single policy of removing subsidy from fuel has been the ripple effect that has caused some of these challenges are actually feeling so hard in the country. But your party, you had subscribed to the fact that removing subsidy was the deal. What makes it different from the fact that we are having some of the concern from your political party towards what the president is doing?
Well, I don't know which one you call my political party.
Are you not a member of Labour Party?
Yes, I'm a member of Labour Party. I run elections.
Peter Obi said he will remove subsidy.
Yes, you see, subsidy is an organized crime. That is the best way to describe it. Over the years, subsidy has become an organized crime. Every major political party or every major presidential candidate subscribed and promised that they will remove subsidy. But you don't just wake up and remove subsidy. It's just like when you have a house. If you build a house that you live in and you are thinking about getting another house, you don't come one day and demolish that your house without having an alternative. Before you demolish your house, you must have an alternative where you're going to move into so that you demolish your house and then build your house. So the same thing is in the issue of subsidy. I think the numbers were not added. And if numbers were not added, there will be no summary, there will be no total. So making that singular first announcement about removal of subsidy, that is what triggered off all the problems that have been faced. And so those things now spiraled into every section and sector of the economy. But unfortunately, we've also now been hearing that the same subsidy that was removed is now back unofficially.
We can't confirm that.
Yes, I mean, that's the report we also saw from...
Is it from the statement he made to the NLC that if you want me to increase your minimum wage, I might possibly consider increasing fuel price? Recently,
we read reports from Financial Times that the amount of money being paid in subsidy now is over 1 trillion naira a month.
Government are saying we are not paying subsidy.
Well, if we are not paying subsidy, I mean, just like I keep saying, it's not just enough to say we are not paying subsidy. If the experts or people we believe to be experts are saying from what they are saying, subsidy is being paid, it's left for the government to provide facts to show that they are not paying subsidy. It's not just by mere announcement. These things have to reflect on the economic books of the government.
Sharing tones, giving some state government some allegation. We've seen the figures of breakdown of what federal government have disbursed from the grounds that this is a saving from the subsidy. Isn't that enough to substantiate it?
If those monies are going to the state government, maybe double what they are getting before, why do we still have heavy economic burden? Why do we still have crisis? Why do we still have a lot of poverty? If you provide resources for alleviation of poverty, programs and all that, and these things are not getting to the ground, then how can you explain that? The people will say, well, we don't see the results of this these things. This is what is happening. And that has to do with the level of corruption in the system. And this corruption is not just about this administration. It's been ongoing for many years in this nation. If government designs programs and puts these programs in the hands of political, cronies, as political settlements, if these programs are not put in the hands of people who can actually run them to make sure that the people benefit from them, these people, do away with the funds. They don't get to the people. And I think that is part of what this government is facing, because people who are running programs, don't apply these resources to where they are supposed to go. People see, opportunities that are given to head agencies and all that as their own settlement, as a settlement for their political support. It's not supposed to be that way. And that is what makes us different from, the Western world. They put people whose track records are known, people whose patriotism are not in doubt, people whose skills and qualifications are not in doubt, so that when you are given a job, a ministry to run, and you're giving funds to run your programs, you make sure that you run them properly, and so that the people will benefit from governance.
Does it look like the president made a dead economy? Because we've seen some of the government appointees coming out and said that we inherited a dead economy, that things are not working that bad? Is it the accumulative effect that the president is trying to handle?
Well, yeah, just like you said earlier on that the government has denied that they're not paying subsidy. The government also said they inherited a bad economy. So how do we know what they inherited? Yes, it's not enough to say you inherited a bad economy. If you inherited a bad economy, what are you doing, to make the economy stronger? What are you doing to instill confidence on the people? What are you doing to make sure that the people, benefit from governance? It's not by, approving billions and billions of naira for projects that don't have economic benefits, buying hundreds of SUVs for government officials all over the place. So if you make a bad economy, you are now supposed to run an austere government and run policies that will, see to it that the government and the nation starts recovering from the bad economy that you made. I personally believe that this government inherited a bad economy because we are all members of this society. We saw how the last 8 years went. And the understanding is that the party in power now campaign that they will make things better. And when you come in, you face squarely the bad things you saw, not complaining every day.
They said they will continue from where the former president stopped.
Well, that means they believe that the former government didn't leave a bad economy.
Are they contradicting themselves?
Absolutely. So you have to be clear as to what you are saying. Are you saying you met a bad economy, or are you believing that you continue from where the last government stopped? It's a major conflict.
All right. We just have to go on a break right now, everyone. Once we return, we'll be looking at the other aspect of what is the way forward for Nigeria, and understanding the fact that it will also give us an understanding what is happening in Labour Party. We understand it defected from People's Democratic Party to Labour. I understand you've had tests and feelings of different political parties in the country. We'll look at the internal democracy we have in the country right now, moving forward in the country. On this program, do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Notice of meeting. This is to inform all state chairmen of our party, the All Progressive Congress APC, that there will be a meeting between the National Working Committee and the state chairman, scheduled as follows. Date, Friday 26 July 2024. Time, 3 p.m. Venue, National Working Committee Hall, APC National Secretariat, Abuja. Agenda, State of the Nation. Progress report on party structures in the states. Please note, attendance is compulsory for all state chairmen of the party. Signed, Senator Surajuddin Ajibola Basiru, PhD, National Secretary.
Many thanks, everyone, for still staying with us. This is Big Talk on Global Television. Of course, I'm still having a session with Honorable Ikechukwu Ibe, a former speaker in the State House of Assembly, giving an understanding of what it looks like for the country today and its concern generally. And now we'll be looking at what is really happening in his political party. He had contested to be the governor in the State under his platform. So we'll be looking at these, some of the internal crises that we are having in the Labour Party, and other political parties having similar internal political crises. What it means for our democracy, because sometimes many persons have argued that if we do not get it right from the party level, we possibly might not get it right in building governance. Of course, politics is over, but now time for governance. What does it look like? And what are the crops of the politicians many parties are producing is also a major concern to us. Honorable, why did you leave People's Democratic Party? I understand for some years you were a member of that party.
Yes. Well, Nigerian political space is very fluid and very dynamic. When you're looking for a position, and I'll give you an analogy. If you're running for office, compare that to if you have to go, for instance, from Owerri to Lagos to go start a job on Monday, and you enter a vehicle, and the vehicle takes you all the way and breaks down at Shagamu, and you have to be in Lagos. You can't stay with the vehicle in Shagamu until your Monday comes and your interview is over and you miss your interview. So you find another vehicle to enter so that you get to Lagos. And by the time you settle down, you can then go and look for what happened to your vehicle. So in Nigeria, even though many parties profess ideologies, these things are more on paper than real. There is hardly any political leader or political party member in Nigeria that has not moved from one party to the other because of what they're looking for. Even the current president was a member of AD, but is now in APC. P2B was in PDP. He's now a Labour Party. There is no major political figure in Nigeria who has not cross-carpeted from one party to the other. So because one looks for a position because one believes he has something to offer, and you can't get it from one party, either because of how the party conducted themselves in the process leading up to the election, people now leave to go to places where they think they have a better opportunity, or to go to places where they think there will be fairness in the process of selection of candidates. That is usually what makes people leave their party. And this is something that has happened all the time and will continue to happen. So that, in summary, is why I left PDP then, back in the day. Actually, when I left PDP, I didn't leave to go and join another political party. I decided that it was enough for me. I wanted to go and take a deserved rest, but one thing led to the other, and I found myself back again in
because you've contested governor from records. I mean, good number of times,
yes.
2007, 2015, 2019, and 2023.
Yes.
What's your concern about wanting to be the governor of Imo State?
Because I believe I had what to offer. I'm not a typical politician. I'm a developmental politician, somebody who believes that you can move the society from point A to point B. If you see the analysis I've been making here, what has always concerned me is in governance is the people are supposed to be taken care of. You're supposed to move the place, the society, the government, the state from point A to point B. But most times, these states get stagnated because political leaders only cater to themselves and to their cronies and not to the generality of the public. So for these past times I've been running for governor, I've been consistent in my outlook about governance. I've been consistent in what I want to bring to the table to the people. It doesn't take magic to develop a state. It takes skills, which I believe I've had all these years,
all right.
And that is why I've been running for this
Is the multiple political parties we have in the country helping us? Because some persons are arguing that if we have a two political system, like what is obtainable in America, it might really help us ideologically. Because if you look at what is happening in the country today, recently Senator Lynn Dume spoke in the Senate, probably because the president did not give him audience, and he was called, and the party had sanctioned him accordingly. And persons are arguing that he's a member of the party, he ought to also have a take and contribution. And what is also APC doing to address the many issues that the president probably is having difficulties in running in the country? That falls back to the fact that sometimes a political party should offer advices to government of the day. Does this look like we have this, concern in the country, or people are just after the next election?
Well, political parties are the engine blocks of democracy. Back in the days, like I also said, political parties were superior to the people they produced as candidates or people they produced as elected officials. Political parties superintended over the affairs of their members. But in these days and in these years, political parties have taken back seat. You see elected members of political parties in government now control political parties, which shouldn't be the case. Political parties are supposed to control their members. Political parties...
So when they say governor is the leader of the party, is wrong?
It's wrong. You know, I mean, it's not that... I mean,
is it because of the financial benefit they may
absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. When in those days, when political parties were strong, parties hold their meetings at the national secretariats of the parties and the presidents attend. But most times these days, presidents summon party leaders. Presidents and governors summon party leaders. You know, party leaders have allowed themselves to become tools in the hands of the people they presented who eventually won elections. You know, it wasn't like that before, and this is why things are going wrong. Parties are no longer able to call their members in the House or their members in the Senate or their governors or their presidents. They are no longer able to call them to order. Parties have manifestos, and for you to subscribe to a party, you must subscribe to its manifesto. You must do what the party says. It used to be said that party, you know, is supreme, but party is no longer supreme. The people who were elected on the platforms of these parties are now the ones who are supreme. They are calling the shots. The example you just gave with Senator Alindube, well, I mean, he expressed his view that his party was going in the wrong direction. And everybody sees that, and his party decided to sanction him. You know, that is really what we see now in our party politics. But coming to about, you talked about whether is it not better to have two-party system like they have, you know. There is no nation that has two-party systems. In the US, it's not two parties. There are just two dominant parties and there are a plethora of other parties. In the UK, there are two dominant parties and there are other smaller parties. The same way in Nigeria, there are so many parties and two dominant parties. You know, so what, and all these people, they move from, everybody moves from one party to the other, from the other to another party. There is no ideology. You know, so it's not really about the party. It's not really about how many parties you have. It's really about the people who are members of this party, the policies they drive, how they run the nation and how they run their states. We always say that, you know, the problem of nations is not in the constitutions or the laws, but is in the implementations of the laws and the constitutions. It's about people running the system. The system is not broke. It is the people who run the system that are broke.
A concern, because some of these issues we have is the fact that we also find people APC in the morning and PDP in the night. Also, finding people who are also trying to, you know, get some favor from this other party and thereby undermining what is happening in their own region or in their own state. Fighting sometimes, some people said, federal power. We've seen ministers who try to quench on the performance, who try to infringe on the performance and the right of governors in some state. We've seen that back and forth. Is it really helping us as a country where party in power tends to subdue all the political parties in terms of having a fair grounds in the nation?
Yes, that is because what I said earlier on, the system does not work effectively. If the system works, if there is independence of the agencies, if there are efficient people running agencies, nobody will have to bother. The table of governance is big enough. But when certain people try to shrink the table and throw all other people away, that is where you have conflicts. That is why people start looking for crumbs. That is why people start chasing the parties in government to get a piece of the pie or a piece of the action. You know, but in civilized, and I use the word very cautiously, civilized democracies, it's not like that. The courts are independent. The electoral bodies are independent. The legislatures are independent. The executive, so everybody will do their work according to the tenets and dictates of the Constitution. There are no frictions. When you are due for remunerations, you are paid your remunerations. You know, not withholding your remunerations or your perks of office because you are from opposition, or because they're saying something critical of the government is in power. You know, these things are not supposed to run this way, and the Constitution didn't make them to run this way. And that is why we have problems. You know, people don't do what they are supposed to do. People pander to the crumbs they get from people who are holding the yam and the knife. And that is why you see people jumping all over the place, people getting, you know, very careful about what they say. You see members of the opposition in the National Assembly, they play the role more of the people in government than people in opposition, because they don't want to run foul of people, the government in power. You know, but for government in power to work effectively, there has to be a strong opposition. It is opposition that keeps the government in power on their toes and makes them live up to their responsibilities and make them live up to the promises they made to the people. But opposition don't do this. Opposition is looking for where they get crumbs from, and sometimes jumping into bed with them.
So opposition parties have failed in terms.
It is very clear opposition parties have failed, especially in the last several years in Nigeria. Opposition don't.
Is it why the youth are taking upon themselves to protest?
Well, you know, it's probably part of the reasons. You know, it's probably part of the reasons because opposition does not check the parties in power. When you check the parties in power, it's just like when you, as a president or as a governor, if you appoint only people who will come and tell every day, Your Excellency, Mr. Governor, everything is fine, what you said is right, that's what you are going to do. If you have only yes people in your government, you will not do well. You won't hear what is going wrong. You won't feel the pulse of the people. But when you have people in your cabinet who will look in the face and say, Mr. Governor or Mr. President, this side is wrong, this place is leaking, this policy is wrong, we need to correct it. That is how they run effective governance. But if it's just people who come every day to say, yes, everything is fine, then the government will not do well. Probably that is why, like you said, the youths are in pensive mode.
All right, let me take you to your party. Are you bothered about what is happening in Labour Party? Because this is a party that came, I mean, it has existed prior to its time, I think, from all records. But, you know, it came into waves in the 2023 elections, mostly from the fact that many Nigerians were yearning to look for something new and better. But it turns out to be that, you know, what is probably applicable in other political parties is also very familiar in Labour Party. Allegations, embezzlement, and all of these issues, internal political crisis, pull-down syndromes, and all of that. Are you worried about what is going on there?
Yes, what is going on in Labour Party is not unusual. It's the same thing happening in political parties, other political parties, because...
But Labour Party came as a saint.
Well, that's the impression the party created, that it came as a saint, but then it's also made up of Nigerians.
So institution is not the problem. Nigerians as the people are also a problem.
That's what I keep saying. It is the operators that are the problems, not the party. The Labour Party was a sleeping party before Mr. Peter Obi came in. And once Mr. Peter Obi came in with his popularity and all that, so many people massed in. People came in from every party and joined. And these people that came in from all parties also brought in idiosyncrasies from all the other parties and infiltrated into the party. The party became part of the, you know, part of the society.
So the politicians are all the same?
Politicians are all the same.
Wherever party they go to?
Absolutely. You know, things that happened also in Labour Party that are still reverberating now is because so many people now came. A lot of people were given tickets in the party before the upsurge of Mr. Peter Obi. And a lot of these people were now, you know, shoved aside. So there's problems, and that is part of the problem that the state, some of them, many of the cases are still in court. So Labour Party is not different from any other party. You know, assuming Mr. Peter Obi leaves Labour Party tomorrow, the party will collapse. They will go back to what they were. And if a Peter Obi goes into SDP tomorrow, SDP will bubble. Not just Peter Obi, there are certain political leaders who will go into a party. They energize a base. They come in with their base. It happens in all parties. But the bottom line is that the problems are not with the people. The problems are not with institutions. The problems are with the people. Labour Party, like all other parties, have constitutions, but these constitutions are implemented more in breach. So when you have white, you call it black because of certain interests. The next person who sees that white and knows it's white will fight you because you say it's black when it is not black. It's happening in every party in Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned, I have issues. PDP has bigger issues. I won't be surprised also if APC has issues. You will know when parties have issues when elections come. You will see cliques, you will see factions, you will see party officials collecting all kinds of money and distorting the primaries process. Processes that are laid out clearly in the party's constitution. But people come and dump tons on tons of money, and you discard the principles of internal democracy in the party. And then crisis starts. It happens in every party.
So do you feel if Nigerians at the end of the day had Labour Party in the seat of power, Labour Party would have still been frustrating the presidency as well and the country?
Well, there will always be people who will find trouble for the leader of the nation. If a Labour Party had gotten into governance, nobody says it would have been, 100% perfect. There will still be issues.
But the party came with no interest and all of those things.
Yes, the determinant factor, the bottom line is, what does the individual running the system do? What is his or her ideologies? How does he want to shape the destiny of the people he leads? How frugal is he or her? How honest is he or her? How straightforward are they? It doesn't matter whether you're in APC or in PDP or in Labour Party or in ABGA. As long as you don't have these tenets to run near perfect administration, there will always be a problem. Don't be surprised that APC will also have their own internal wranglings. But because they're the government in power, they have all the leverages to suppress whatever issues they may have. It's not unusual.
Are there saboteurs in the Labour Party? Because it seems, the last agitations we've always had, there are people trying to sabotage the party. Does it look that way?
I don't know about, in the last, you're probably talking about when the party had two factional national chairmen. These things happen in parties. I don't think it's possible that there was sabotage. Like you said at the beginning of the program, I don't know what the facts were at that level. There's always sabotage, but if the party leaders, give...
But they were accused that it's being sponsored by, external forces. That was a concern that they had.
A number of times, crisis in parties, crises in parties are always externally influenced. And that is when the party leadership leaves open, makes their party porous, gives opportunities, enabling environment for external forces to come in and influence the party. It happens. So, and unfortunately, this has bedeviled, this cost Labour Party a lot. Even when they were having their litigations, there was all kinds of issues. This faction will hire their own lawyers. This faction will hire their own lawyers for the same case or for the same candidates. So it's possible that there were external factors. I don't know the facts at that level. I can only speak to what I know about.
So does it look like this may likely affect the next elections of Labour Party if it's not well shelved and resolved?
Well, nobody can tell you what will happen in the next elections. It's 3 years away from now.
So you still feel the Labour Party is still strong to withstand the political tensions in the country?
Now, let me tell you something about, everybody, the impression is that Labour Party became strong in the last election, which is true, they became strong. And they only became strong for a reason. If that reason why they became strong is no longer there, the party will no longer have any mouth again or any voice. So I don't know what is going to happen in 2027
All right.
or leading up to that.
So it's safe to say, because Peter Obi said obedient movement is not it's not a Labour Party.
Obedient movement is not a political. Obedient movement is an amorphous group of people who decided to throw in their support for a candidate of a party. They could also throw in their support to a candidate of another party in the next election.
All right. Generally, let me get your final view on the tech on the program before we round up. In the heat of what may be disturbing right now, as a patriotic Nigerian, I mean, speak this time not as a politician. What should be the message to the president in respect to some of the challenges we are facing today? Because we've seen that the fact that president is showing remorse, is communicating, is showing that sense of leadership to some persons. But the challenge is seems enormous for him to tackle because of the depressing need for hunger that is actually in the country. And the fact that some of the economic policies is introducing and all of that is not reflecting on the life of Nigerians, which is basically the concern. But he said there's a future plan for this. The party are arguing, give the president some time. What's your concern about patience of Nigerians, concern about fixing urgently things that ought to be fixed so they can address the issues of the pressure now?
Yeah, first of all, answering your first thoughts, the challenges are not enormous. They should.
So if you solving all Nigeria's problem, corruption, institutional issues are not enormous?
We don't have problems that cannot be solved. When people run for office, they campaign around the nation, they campaign around the state, they feel the pulse of the people, they see the issues affecting the people, and they tell them, I'm going to fix this. I will get this right. So when you now win and get into office, you can't come and say the problems are enormous. The problems are not enormous because that's what you saw before you told yourself, convinced yourself you can fix the problem. So you have to start fixing the problems. And the way you fix the problems is by putting square pegs in square holes. Make sure you have technocrats, people who are experienced, people who are passionate about leadership, not just settling political friends, and then also dealing with political enemies. There are no problems in any nation or in any state that cannot be surmounted. If you believe you have what it takes, then you give what it takes, and there'll be stability and progress in the nation. That's what I urge Mr. President to do.
All right. Thanks so much. Honorable Ikechukwu Ibe, former Speaker of Imo State and a gubernatorial aspirant in that state, for your concern on these issues and respect to the fact that a lot concern of many Nigerians, but violence is not the way, and also the concern that the presidency and the government as well should urgently fix the many economic challenges we are facing so as to put to rest the tension in the country. That's the size of Big Talk tonight. Of course, looking forward again, having your reactions, your comments, right out of the comment sections to know what your concern, what your take on this program. You're watching us on DSTV channel 365 on the StarTimes channel 276. You can actually subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all the social media platforms that is displayed on the screen. My name is Edika Michael, your host. Thanks so much. And of course, thanks to Honorable for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you very much.
See you again. And thanks so much for staying with us.